What's up, everybody? Spare with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on No Man's Sky. Where am I, you may ask? It's been a while. I mean, it's been like, what, a week since we last saw each other? I mean, it's only really been a week in the real world, but it feels like in No Man's Sky it's been a while. So I'm just chilling on my frigate, which is part of my fleet that's, you know, part of my freighter fleet over here. So yeah, I just figured I'd get out, do a little spacewalk, see what the air felt like up here, and it's pretty good. I'm actually really thrilled with this new type of frigate system and fleet system. I think it's really cool, especially since you can actually get out and walk around on the frigates. I wish you could do it on the freighter, but you can't for reasons unknown yet. So yeah, it's pretty cool overall. I don't recommend doing what I just did and kind of not paying attention to where you are before you jump off, because if you don't have anywhere to land, it can result fairly poorly. AKA, you die. Now, there are a couple of glitches I've run into here, which is, I think they're working on fixing it or something, but there's one where there's an internal area inside the frigates, and I tried to go in mine, and the door opens, but it's like an invisible wall that won't let me through. I don't remember if they said they fixed that, but it would only apply to ships after the patch, or if they just haven't gotten around to fixing that part yet. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that's my freighter over there. Actually, let me see here. There's a in-menu view of it. Yep, it's the one you get for doing the missions, if you've heard about that already. And it happened to be blue and black, which I couldn't have been more happy about. Now, that said, this episode is going to be super duper choppy, because in an interest to not make myself go insane, I decided to just record footage and not try and talk and record over the entire game all the time. Because I wanted to keep playing, but I didn't want to miss anything cool that you guys would miss out on as part of the series. So I decided to just record footage and then decide to do commentary later. This is obviously post all of that, and we're going to go back in time to show you guys what has happened since the last episode leading up to this point right here. Now, I should warn you, this will probably be broken up into two parts, mainly because I spliced up as much of the footage as I could, and I cut out all of the random useless crap and only the parts I wanted to talk about, and I still had like an hour plus worth of footage, which is just ridiculous for an episode. I wanted to keep it around 30 minutes or so, so I decided to just cut it halfway at about the halfway point. And so yeah, the first part of this episode we're going to talk about the 3 best ways that I've found to make money, aka units. As you can see, I've made a decent amount of them. So, a decent amount. I mean, it's not the craziest that I've actually seen from people playing the game, but most of them you probably already know about if you're playing No Man's Sky and you've been looking up how do you make money and stuff. I also can't guarantee that they haven't been patched yet. As far as I know, they have not. And I don't actually know if there's anything wrong with it, as if it's imbalance in the game, or if it's something that they just don't care about, like it's fine. So if they feel like if the devs feel it's out of balance, they'll probably patch it at some point. But if it's supposed to work that way, I can't see it working this way. But if it's supposed to work that way, then, you know, whatever. But yeah, so the first part's probably going to be about money making and stuff like that, and some little tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way. A lot of them, full disclosure, are not my ideas or my finds. They were things I read about or watched videos on online and decided to just pass them on in case you guys haven't seen them. The back half to 3/4 of the episode, though, is going to be continuing the storyline, and I will probably commentate over top of the story and stuff, since there's no, like, voiceover and stuff, just to explain what's going on. So with that, I think we're going to cut to the pre-done footage, and I'm going to start talking post-gameplay commentary, if you will. So get ready, and let's get going. Okay, so this first bit is the scanner module. You can actually go here to the shop and with nanites, and you can buy a scanner. I was recommended through the YouTube and other things to do the S module, but theoretically what you can afford will also work. But you can see here that when you use, it's equipped on my multi-tool here, and you can see when you use it, it'll also show you right there the different values. The flora and fauna give you different percentage increases, but now when I scan something, I get 18,000 for this plant here that I don't know what it's actually called, whatever that was. And then here was animals that I scanned, which was like over 100,000 in just one scan. So that's the first way you could make some decent money, or right off the bat, but you'd need nanites. The second way that doesn't require nanites, really, is to find these whispering eggs and catch the, or break them down and get the lava cores that are at the center of them. I wouldn't recommend going over 1 or 2, because you can see what happens here is these biological anomaly things come out and they attack you. They're fairly easy to avoid if you do like 1 lava core and then get away from them. I was getting a little greedy here and getting more than 1. They don't take very long to go away. It's like a couple of minutes or something, and then it'll say swarm subsiding, but each one of these lava cores, or larva cores, excuse me, is worth about 100 grand, give or take. So quite a few of them, or a couple of them, or a stack of them of 5 or whatever is pretty useful. You can also duck into the base here, like this, and for whatever reason, because of the AI, they can't get you in here. So if the eggs are close to a door, you can just kind of grab the egg, run back inside, and you should be good to go. Another thing I like to do was to pass the time was to smelt up things and use the refinery. The third option, and arguably the best option, is to find a blueprint such as what I'm using here is the cryo pumps, and you use thermic condensate and hot ice, which overall can cost you about somewhere around 500,000-600,000 for the ingredients, but the cryo pump yields 2 million for 1 unit. So you can see here I had some extra units, so I spent like 4 million on hot ice to get 10, and then I bought 10 of the thermic condensate, or I think I'm saying that right. I don't know if I'm saying that right now that I'm looking at it. And then I made 10 cryo pumps, which at 2 million a pop is about 20 million right there. So once you make one, they have a new system now where you can just hold the button to hit craft more, which is really, really cool. But yeah, this is by far the easiest way I've seen to make units. It is a little grindy because I cut out just to the one ship that I found, because you find these ships in space stations and stuff like that. It did take quite a few ships to find one that sold the hot ice. Thermic condensate actually wasn't that expensive, or wasn't that uncommon, but hot ice really was. So it could take you over an hour, in my case it was, to find this, but it was well worth the wait in my opinion. I just turned on like a stream. This was another instance where I bought like 20 of them or something to just make a crap ton of money. Yeah, I didn't have enough inventory space, so I just made a bunch of them and then went back and bought more before we left. But because I had spent probably an hour or so waiting for a ship to have the hot ice stuff to buy. But I just had like a stream on in the background and stuff like that, and so it wasn't too bad, and it was well worth the payoff of having like a ton of money towards the very beginning of the game. This was actually before I had actually left my original system and gone into hyperspace stuff, so that was pretty cool. Now, this was kind of what you're looking for. You're looking for manufacturing facilities in order to get the cryo pump blueprint. I got uncannily lucky. I don't even know if that's the proper adjective to use there. But I got at the first manufacturing plant I went to. I didn't record it, but this is where you want to find a manufacturing plant. Or facility. You can get them technically anywhere that can give you a blueprint, but this was by far the one that everybody kept talking about. And I also included this little clip here because I realized in the last episode I was taking these damaged components out in order to make the container work, and then I never went back into this and actually collected what was in the containers, so I wanted to kind of nip that in the butt. But yeah, so this is the this is what a manufacturing facility looks like. I don't really understand exactly why, but from all I can tell on YouTube and stuff, that's supposedly the easiest way to find the blueprint. They can also use stuff such as oh, I was gonna say here, you need a bolt caster or something to damage the door. And I like that the new bolt casters actually have ammo now, so you use these projectile ammunitions, which is made from ferrite dust, I believe? Yes. So they're fairly simple. When I started doing this, it activated the sentinels, though, and I wanted to point out something here. I noticed... it's in here somewhere. I was fighting along and I got a 360 in damage on that guy, and it made me curious, so I started playing around with them and trying to recreate it, and I think I figured it out. It's that antenna on the bottom, I think. So I think I zoomed it in here. I was playing with the editing a little bit. So right about there, I got one, and I started looking at it going, okay, that must have been like a critical hit. So then I recreated it right there. I was like, I got it. So I rewound it so we can show it in slow motion. So as you can see, it's that red antenna thing on the bottom, and you do a lot more damage to at least the floaty one. So if you're having trouble with them, it's a good idea. It's a good little strategy. They also drop these things now, which give you back ammo and often pugnium along with some other stuff. At this point, I just wanted to hurry up and get the door open, but it took a while, so I sped up the footage. I wanted to... They can't track you, really. I've been shot a couple times, but overall they can't really track you inside the building, so when it said I was up to a 3rd star, I wanted to get in here and get away from everything. So when you're in the manufacturing facility, you'll be faced with some kind of puzzle, whether it's an encryption or whatever. In this case, it said the vault's usually stored uncommon items, so when it gave me carbon or condensed, I figured the more rare would be what it's looking for, so I went with the condensed carbon instead of the regular, and it seemed to have worked. And in this case, I got a blueprint for something else, but this would be normally where you get the cryo pump. I will warn you, supposedly it can take a while. I got extremely lucky, and the first time I tried this on a manufacturing plant, I got cryo pump blueprint. The other one you can use is, there's something singularity or singularium or something. It looks kind of like antimatter, but that's another that does 2 million. So then I moved to the rest of the story. I had done some ship swapping along the way as well, which actually came back to bite me a little bit later. Because there's a quest about the hyperdrive that if you've already traded your ship in and gotten a better one with an active hyperdrive, the quest line seems to get confused. So this was the planetary signal we received at the end of the last episode that I never went and looked into, so I decided to check it out this time. So yeah, I was checking to see... oh, there it is. So you get 16 log entry, something follows. The sparking wires of the machine generate a signal tapping out its broadcast into the void. Whoever left the message is long gone. So you decipher the signal. Entry something, no fuel in blank, failed to reach station, hazard protection low, no choice but to blank, underground, something about a base computer. As well as the log entry, the signal contains plans for a base computer and a terrain manipulator. With any luck, the base computer will hold more information about whoever is leaving these messages. So we download the plans. The terrain manipulator is very, very valuable, and it's fairly cheap to make. It was just the dihydrogen jelly and the carbon nanotubes, I believe, which is just carbon, so you need like 100 carbon. But I found this to be very useful because it's actually how you can mine copper deposits that are in the ground, which actually is where you can make the chromatic metal from, which you need. As you can see in the tooltip down at the bottom for the rest of the quest is gather, I rendered on a lower quality, I think it's 80 copper. You guys should be able to see it plain and clear, but I rendered on a lower settings for recording so I could get this done, so that I could do my audio part. So I can't really read that right now. It's kind of blurry. I think it's 60 or 80. But anyways, you can see it. And when you get enough copper, I actually emptied out that whole deposit before I was done. Okay, so it's 80. I'm now seeing that I'm past 70. But yeah, it mines so much faster than it did before. It mines so much faster than it did before, which is really cool. And then you take the copper. I think we discussed this already, and it puts it into the chromatic metal. I think that's how you're supposed to pronounce that. So this is on a different planet. I found a crash freighter and thought it would be fun to try and build a base, so I built the base computer, which is the next part of the quest. Searching Cartographic Archive. Universal Archive search reveals no prior claims on this site. Sonar test confirms site is suitable for construction, so we claimed it. So that's kind of how the new base building mechanic works. There isn't apparently a, like, site that you have to locate. You kind of just plop a base computer down, and if it doesn't detect anything in the radius, then it's like you're all good, which is really cool. It really is kind of neat. Accessing log from previous user. Entry something follows. Storm sweeping across, but construction supplies low, depositing shelter plans while need to back soon. So download the plans. So this is where you get your first plans for building materials. In our case, it's wooden stuff. So it tells you to construct a base out of basic wood parts for protection from hazards. You basically need a floor, a doorway, 3 walls, and a roof to complete the quest, to where it can see it as a viable living space kind of thing. I actually like the wood design too, and I like that it can be made out of carbon, which is a lot cheaper than most other materials. I will admit the whole wood design though, I gotta admit it gives me flashbacks of Grav. Which is a mixed thing. It's kind of cool, but it's kind of bad. Now, the roof did require ferrite, which I had to go run off and get, which is what I was doing there. And I came back in a storm, so I was running, trying to finish this up and get it completed. Now, it tells me to do a door frame here. I don't know why it didn't detect I already had a doorway up, but it didn't. So I put a door frame, and it completed the quest, but I believe it would have worked anyway had I put down another wall. But here nor there. So then it tells you to go check the base computer to update the quest. I decided to go ahead and switch out the second door for a wall, just for my OCD to relax a bit. And I do apologize for the fogginess, but it was because it was in the middle of a storm and I decided not to wait. Accessing log from previous user, additional archives recovered. Entry such and such follows. Construction largely a success, recovered salvage technology from nearby, blank plans logs, scans indicate additional subterranean devices. So we're downloading the plans here. Whoever recorded these logs evidently had some success. I have access to their plans and perhaps I can learn from their efforts. This is a new mechanic, which is cool. It's called a blueprint analyzer. And it makes you have to go salvage things in order to learn new blueprints, which is interesting because they didn't have that kind of progression system before. So what you do is you'll need a portable refinery. As of yet, I don't think they have a stationary one. And then you put in ferrite dust into the refinery, which will make pure ferrite, and then you can actually recycle that and make it magnetized ferrite, I believe, and that's what you need for this part of the quest. So I went ahead and smelted up that, and when we hit the number that it gives you the number that you need, I didn't make more than I needed, so you can kind of bear that in mind if you're not wanting to waste a lot of resources. So then I just removed that, and now it tells you to use the refinery to make magnetized ferrite. Well, it actually doesn't tell you to use it. It's just it says it needs magnetized ferrite. So we can make that. And I don't remember, I'm not looking at the blueprint, obviously this is post footage, but I don't remember exactly what else the blueprint analyzer needed. But I do remember that I had it for whatever it was. Oh, the carbon nanotubes. Okay, that's the other thing that you'll need. So we made one of those, and now it kind of works the same way as all the other portable stuff, and you'll see there's a blueprint analyzer. And I decided to move it around until it was lined up kind of with the base computer, which didn't really end up mattering because I ended up breaking down this base later anyway, because I didn't really need it. It's just kind of part of the quest line. It keeps the quest moving. Analysis units online, diagnostic suggestions, user recover blueprint technology from dig sites, equip and utilize an analysis visor. So you'll need these salvage modules in order to make use of the blueprint analyzer to unlock these new blueprints, such as the save point, teleport module, and so forth. The buried technology module icon looks kind of like that. I kind of look at it as either some kind of wave signal, sonar signal, or like a... maybe even you could consider it like a baseball diamond kind of shape, or an arrow. So you do need... the quest progress correctly as far as you'll need the terrain module, manipulator module, so it kind of makes sense that you had to have that first, or that quest first. So then when you get to these modules, you'll access them. Now, they don't always have salvage technology, but a lot of times they do. I have found other things in them in my travels. But when you have one, I think it just requires you to do one. You don't actually need to, like, scan all of them for the quest to move on. I chose the save point, and then I think I ended up choosing the communication module or something like that. Because I didn't have enough for the teleport module, but the picking one was enough, and then it tells you to go back to the base computer log thing. Alright, additional archives recovered. Entry such and such follows. Scanner detected unusual, repeating 16, the space station. Warning, archives interrupted, emergency broadcast detected. The traveler finds their wings, they fly towards us as they must. You will find us when the time is right. The base computer is interrupted its own archive retrieval program to relay an emergency message, but the broadcast sounds like no distress signal I've ever heard. Perhaps the message is right, perhaps it's time to fly, to return to space and seek answers to this mystery. Now, at this point, I had kind of, and you get this emergency broadcast of just repeating 16s. Kind of makes me feel a little bit lost nostalgia of like that, I forget the number sequence, but that 24, 48, 32, whatever it was that was on the hatch that showed up everywhere. But I felt like I kind of had messed up the sequence a little bit, because it's like, go seek out the space station, and I was like, I've already been there a billion times. So what you actually have to do is when you get to the space station, you need to talk to all these random aliens, occupants, whatever you want to call them, and sometimes they'll give you options for repeating the frequency. Now, obviously what they say isn't really that important because I can't speak their language, other than just they seem excited to see me, blah blah blah. But when you repeat the code, you get mixed reactions like this: a look of surprise, they release a strange smell, and then they're kind of like, I don't want to talk to you anymore, what are you doing? Some just are confused, they're like, what are you talking about? And eventually you'll hit one that actually tells you, it basically gets like possessed kind of thing, and it starts like speaking as if it's a host for another being. I think it was this guy that ended up actually talking to me. And the camera does weird stuff every now and again, and it doesn't line up right there. So the life form, when he blinks, I see the same red light that stared at me at the terminal. So that's important. We are watching you, traveler friend. Find what we have left you. Though the alien speaks, the words are not their own. The code is echoed back to me through the red glare, transformed into a set of coordinates. So obviously... Oh, the crimson light fades away and I see the life form blinking at me expectantly. Whatever has happened, they do not appear to have seen it. I should leave and find whatever has been left for me. So then you'll get another signal, and you're supposed to go investigate. So this was an interesting one because it basically it looked the same as my home area, but I don't think it actually is, because my home is absent. Either that or I'd already broken it down, I can't remember, but we ended up at this lost freighter. Log damaged, partial records available. The signal has led me to the wreck of a freighter, colossal fragments of metal scattered across the landscape. Were these messages nothing but the misfiring circuits of something I missed? Nestled among the debris, I find the pilots blinking awaiting input. Instead of displaying the ship's log, the terminal spits out a strange sequence of numbers. They are followed by a short message. The anomaly comes for the stars. Take flight. A schematic for a hyperdrive is attached to the end of the message. So this is where it got a little dicey. I pull the blueprint from the computer, but this hyperdrive blueprint is for a conventional starship, not a freighter of this size. Someone placed this here after the crash, hoping it would be found. This part gets a little wonky, not in terms of story, but in terms of gameplay mechanics, because I had already swapped out my ship numerous times, especially because of that unit collection money-making trick. So it does say all systems functional, seek them amongst the stars, but the weird part is when I went to my hyperdrive screen, it wouldn't let me warp, even though I had fuel and the hyperdrive was functioning. And I had read reports about this online. By the way, this is what you don't do when you're taking off. Don't do that. It's not healthy on your ship. Your ship isn't a fan. So I got back out into space, and then it picks up an anomaly, so it gives you another signal to scan, So I believe I set off my scan, and then it gives me another broadcast station area to go look for something else. So the hyperdrive part hasn't come into play yet, but it will, I guess. I was a bit ahead of myself, apparently. So this is where the signal ends up taking you. There's more eggs there. A lot of these, like, taken over places and stuff tend to have these eggs, so I was just grabbing one before I ran inside. So when you access the terminal, you have to take the goo out of it. Now, if you keep it and you smelt it, I think it turns into silver, but it is considered junk. Terminal online, selecting key, success. The terminal is clogged with an unnerving, pulsating slime. Nevertheless, it appears to function. As I touch the input panel, the alien substance reacts violently. I make a note to avoid getting closer. I feel like I've done a couple of these infected terminals, and they all say the same thing. The device opens up, revealing a single, unblinking crimson eye. It deposits a sample of antimatter, accompanied by a strange message. Now that part's different. These are story-related ones, so this message is a little bit different. You will find us when the time is right, and then 16 is repeated numerous times. And you get a formula for antimatter housing as well as an antimatter sample. Now you can take the antimatter housing and the antimatter and put them together to make a warp cell. And see, this is the part where it got a little glitchy, because it says fuel the hyperdrive, which I can't do because the hyperdrive is full. And I can't go anywhere because, according to the story of the game, it's not in a space where it'll allow me to warp yet. So it gets a little dicey here because I can't warp anywhere, but I have a full hyperdrive. So I can't refuel the hyperdrive because it doesn't have a need for it. And I read a bunch of different things online. I tried a couple different things. I tried to select my old ship, because I still had one that didn't have a hyperdrive, and sell it. Or I thought about building a hyperdrive onto it, but I was like, that's kind of more expensive than, for considering I already had one, I didn't really feel the need. But honestly, it ended up just working out itself. I went to the space station a bunch of times. I talked to a bunch of different ship people. I tried to buy a couple ships in terms of I compared them with my current one and stuff like that, and then at some point it just seemed to fix itself and it was like, okay, you can warp, but I actually don't really know what the actual solution for this is. I'm hoping that they patch it at some point and it'll recognize, hey, you already have a full hyperdrive, you don't need to use it. As you can see, eventually the fuel, the hyperdrive thing just went away, and I have no idea why. So then I went and I started traveling around, and at one point a signal told me to go to this anomalous, am I saying that right? Anomalous? Signal detected, visit the planetary outpost at one of the new places that I went to, so we get this cool outpost. By the way, there's also this cool little ring landing thing they have now, and if it's blue, it shows that there's a landing zone there, and if it turns green, that's where you'll land, and if it's a zone like that, you won't actually use fuel when you take off, which is pretty cool. So yeah, this is the landing outpost, and that's the person I'm supposed to talk to. He has a little icon above his head. The camera went weird. Likelihood of traveler anomaly now beyond 2 standard deviations suggests further aid, blueprint offered. So apparently, because it wasn't telling me where I was going, I went to the wrong places. Unlike the other life forms I have met so far, this one speaks in a language I understand, and yet I cannot comprehend their meaning. They speak as if they do not know what they're saying, as if their mind is not their own. So kind of the same deal as the other alien that was on the station. The alien offers me a blueprint and a means to construct my own antimatter. I don't know. I take the antimatter blueprint. Whoever is leaving this trail has some design, but what it is I cannot fathom. There's nothing to do but to continue to follow. I don't actually know if that's because I didn't go to the right places on my own or what, but we get the blueprint for the antimatter, and that's basically where I'm gonna wrap things up for this episode. Alright, so there you have it, ending on a cliffhanger, I know. I mean, I guess that's a cliffhanger. I don't know. But yeah, like I said, that's gonna make a wrap for part 1. I do think that I'm gonna do another part 2 of this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments if you like this kind of style. I didn't intend to keep doing this series that way. I intended to do it live, but I just had too much footage and stuff to go over in one episode. So the next part will probably get more into the freighter and how we came about getting the freighter and stuff like that, as well as continuing the storyline and how we ended up here on this planet with this mission of Alone Amidst the Stars. But let me know if you guys prefer it this way or not. If you do, maybe I'll keep doing them this way. It is a lot more editing on my part, but at the same time it's not quite so as difficult as trying to record the gameplay all at once. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about which style you prefer, and in the meantime we're going to wrap this episode here. Look forward to part 2 for the next episode, and in the meantime I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click on the little bell icon so that you're notified when I upload new stuff, and I will see you all next time. Peace!